Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, cool. So, I have a nice game here for you. Some of you guys might know who Nigel Short is. He played for the World Championship in 1993 against the one and only Garry Kasparov. So he's pretty well known, pretty legendary in chess circles. Speaking of that, I need to get him down there to be my chess legend coming up at some point. But all my people from the Philippines, magandang umaga, maayong buntag, nine bag na bigat, and I got a new one. It is Aklanon is the language. I think Akla is like the way they say it, like kind of shorthand. But it's Mayad na Agahan. So I'm gonna work on that one or whatever, try to get that one hooked up. So yeah, add another one into the fray. But appreciate everybody coming by, stopping through. Mabu hi to you guys. Almasal tayo. Ingat lagi. Maraming salamat po. Aking makaibigan. Appreciate it very much. If you guys are ready to go, let's take a look and see what we have for the game. So we got D4, got knight to F6. So we start off with the Indian. So this is it's another Indian, but it gets into newer waters pretty soon. So we got C4, E6. We have many different options here. I mean, sometimes you'll go knight to C3, knight to F3. You even see some G3 situations. But we do see knight to C3, so that invites the Nimzo Indian, which we do have. And there's many different ways to, play against this. I mean, you can just simply go A3. You can go queen to C2. Don't go queen to D2 because knight to E4 is going to be annoying. So don't do that. But if you want to waste the tempo, that's fine. It might throw the opponent off a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there's many different options here. So we see Nigel Short go queen to C2. He's wanting to prevent this knight to E4 move just directly. So it's a pretty nice use of tempo. So we got D6. We have A3. Bishop takes C3. We got queen takes C3. And then we have queen to E7. And queen to E7 as of 2012. This is the novelty of the game. So we see G3. So we're kind of doing like a Catalan type of situation with it. So we got bishop to D7, bishop to G2, and then Torre decides that he wants to go for like the Rubinstein like Fort Knox type situation where you bring the bishop out to C6 from D7. So we got bishop to C6. We have F3, which might seem like a weird move. It's a little bit weird, but you are trying to push E4. Like a protected E4. So like, as you can imagine, when you get E4 in, that's going to be a really, really beautiful pawn center. So you got all these pawns up here chilling, oops, in the center of the board. So that's just extra killer. So we see D5, trying to, prevent that as much as possible. So we see B3. We have castles by black. We have knight to H3. We have rook to E8. We have castles by white. Knight B to D7. And then we have A4. Now, something that was actually really, really nice was actually going pawn takes D5. And then after we see pawn takes D5, rook to E1. After A5, we see A4. And as you can see, this bishop is really, really bad. It doesn't really have anywhere to go. It's kind of stuck on this square. Of course, the queen can't attack it right now, but, it's not the best piece ever. So, but anyway, we saw A4 in the game. So we got E5, we have E3, so knight comes back to F8, we have knight to F2, rook A to D8, we see knight to D3, we have knight to G6, we have knight to B4. I think maybe Nigel Short might just be, this is my first video on Nigel Short, so I haven't followed his games, crazy, like a lot. I feel like he doesn't like bishops. Because personally, I mean, in this position, this bishop is so horrible. I don't want to trade my knight for this bishop. So, I mean, like I said, I just think he might be, thinking about, the position getting a lot more open. He wants these bishops, which can be beneficial. So we got queen to E6, knight takes C6, queen takes C6. We have pawn takes E5, knight takes E5. We have bishop to B2. Yeah, so then we see, it's crazy. So we see knight to G6, So rook A comes to E1. We got knight to D7. And then we have queen takes G7 checkmate. Yeah. Queen G7 checkmate. All right, now I'm playing with y'all. I know y'all sitting there thinking, wait a minute. Like, that's it? No, it's not it. I'm just playing. I wanted to make it like, so that when I was looking at the game, right? So I saw this queen to B2. I was like, okay. Dream case scenario, like basically black just moves their knights out of the way and just creates a checkmate situation, right? So I was like, why not do that and act like that's what happens? So like I said, I went knight G6 and then rook A to E1 and then knight to D7, just like, you know, clearing the path for checkmate. So of course that's not what happened in the game, but I had y'all. I think I had y'all. Y'all probably sitting there thinking, are you serious? It was tight. Anyway, getting back serious to what happened in the game. You know, like I said, of course, dream case scenario, you're going to be able to play checkmate on G7, but we're not seeing that. We see queen to C5. We see rook A to D1, and we see knight to C6. You have to be very careful because if you do capture here, you're going to be losing a piece after rook to D8. Rook takes D8, rook takes D8, and then queen takes E5 is an entire piece. So that's why you see knight to C6 before you see any captures, and now you see a capture. Rook takes on D8, rook takes on D8. We see queen takes C4, queen takes C4, and then we have pawn takes C4. So as you can see, black has done what they need to do to make sure they don't get checkmated. So we see rook down to D2, trying to get that rook on the 7th. The rook comes to B1. So like white's goal is to try to like open the position as much as possible so their bishops can be like super beasts. So we'll see what happens. So B6 comes. We have F4. Knight coming back to E7. We get E4. Knight comes to D7. We see bishop to A3. So we're starting to kind of get the game a little bit more open. So we're looking like we're doing pretty good. The knight comes to C6. We see E5. Now, as you can see, we have this pawn structure that's just perfectly open for this bishop to be, you know, super influence in the position. So I mean the bishops have definitely very much improved their scope. So we see knight to D4 and then we see C5, and you know, we're just trying to get complete, you know, open ability. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. So yeah, if you want to go ahead and stop the video real quick and see what is a good move here for black, go ahead and do so. All right, cool. So for those of you that are just looking at the position and say, man, hold on a second. Isn't that just giving a pawn away? Because I can win the pawn and then, you know, because it's just a free pawn. Unfortunately, after knight takes C5, it's going to be giving up an entire piece because bishop takes C5 and you cannot take back because then you have a back rank mate. So you have to always be careful about the back rank stuff. So you always have to make sure you make your preparations to make sure that you're not getting back rank mated. So what Eugene Torre does in the game is he plays H5. So, you know, that's his way of making sure that he doesn't get back rank mated. And so we see pawn takes B6, pawn takes B6, we see A5. So it kind of looks like white's kind of throwing all their pawns away, but they're going to be getting them back. But they're just trying to open their game as much as possible for his bishops. So pawn takes A5, we see rook to B7. Bishop or knight to E6, rook to A7. We have G6, rook takes A5. So like I said, I mean, that pawn does get recovered. So we see rook down to D1, and we see bishop to F1. We have C5. We have rook to A8 with check. King comes to G7, rook to A7. We have knight to B6. We have bishop to B2. We have knight coming to C4, harassing the bishop. So the bishop is really running out of spots to go. We got bishop to C3. We have rook to C1. And it is actually in this position that Nigel Short does resign the game. Now, if we back up to, you know, after bishop to B2, or actually after knight to B6, it was actually better to go king to F2. Just unpinning yourself because that can be a very, very annoying pin. Also, going all the way back to after rook to D1, the initial check, it was better to go king to F2 there as well. You know, just because it's it allows rook to d2, but you actually have some more movability. You know, you always have the ability to try to creep closer. So let's say we go, you know, repeat position. You know, we have this type of ability, and the rook doesn't have the ability to penetrate. But, you know, you have to be very careful when you put yourself in a pin, because sometimes you can't get out of it. So, you know, the problem when we get in the position here after rook to c1, the bishop doesn't really have anywhere to go safely. The only really place to go to is bishop to a5. But you do see knight to e3, and that is all she wrote for your bishop. So that is that game. Maraming salamat po, aking makaibigan in Hagala. I appreciate everybody coming and stopping by very much. If you have any comments or any suggestions on games, let me know. But I'm just doing the Eugene Torre series right now. I will get back with the tournament stuff whenever that comes back up. But I appreciate it, and I'll see y'all next time.